What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the third edition of The Leftover Lies, where we cover all the leftovers that I didn't cover in any of the recent rabbit hole roundups. But of course, as many of you guys know, I'm sure, I haven't made a video in the past few weeks because I've been working on trying to get this book out, which hopefully by the time I actually release this video, hopefully the book is out there. To buy the book, the best and easiest way to purchase is to go to my website, jaredryanweiss.com. That is JAREDRYANWEISS.com. Anyways, without further ado, let's dive into some of these awesome leftover lies. For this video, I was actually in between calling it the Rabbit Hole Roundup episode 37, or on the other hand, switching over to like another leftover lies episode. And like, especially because I wasn't sure exactly when I was going to be releasing this video, I decided to compile some of the really interesting theories I've been coming across in this past few weeks, even though the past few weeks have been very stressful on me.
Because this whole universe is against me!
As far as trying to release the book. But we're back to it, so make sure to follow me on every platform, make sure to subscribe to this channel, make sure to subscribe to my Jared and James channel, make sure to follow me everywhere, make sure to buy the book if you haven't done so already. So for today's Leftover Lies edition, we're going to be talking about, we have a very interesting theory from Despicable Me 2, great movie, and the Arctic Circle that gets shown in that movie at the very start. Then we have a very interesting Bob Marley clip where he talks about freeing our minds from this mental slavery. I also have a very interesting theory when it comes to Spotify and NFL Red Zone having something in common, or Will Smith talking about some interesting conspiracies back in 1998, possibly more depending on how much time I have. So without further ado, let's dive deeper now.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So to start things off, we have Despicable Me 2.
Hey, Tim, nice haircut! Donnie, hang in there, baby!
Which is a great movie. And if any of you guys notice at the start of the movie, you have all these guys, all these government people, doing some classified experiments around the Arctic Circle. Now, if any of you fellow flat earthers know, the normal person isn't allowed to go beyond the 60th parallel. For some strange reason, 58 countries all signed this Antarctic treaty, and for some reason all these countries who can't seem to agree on anything all agreed to this. So what's really going on in Antarctica? Well, as many of us are familiar with, this idea of magnetic north. So like, why is it that every compass always points north? Could there be some interesting strong magnetism going on there? Then on top of that, we also have this idea of this mountain known as Rupus Nigra, which also means Black Rock. And who controls our money? Who controls all the currency? Black Rock.
Funny.
And is it possible that if we actually were allowed to go to the North Pole, would we actually realize the truth about our realm? Is that why at the start of this movie they show a giant magnet at the North Pole? I think they could be doing some interesting truth revelation right there. And once again, is this why we're not allowed to get anywhere close to that without being shot at and without being on the government's radars? And yes, there have been numerous people who've tried, and no, you can't go to Antarctica beyond taking one of these tours, which is going to take you to one of two islands, which is either Rothschild Island or Deception Island, both interesting names. And they're going to take you to see the penguins and convince you that like there's nothing beyond that.
Just smile and wave, boys.
Interesting stuff from Despicable Me 2. Next up, we have a very interesting Bob Marley song that came from back around the time when he was offed or died. I'm not sure actually, I don't know enough about the whole story, but like I have heard some interesting theories when it comes to Bob Marley's death not being an accident. Let's listen together.
Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Not but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the
So, those are some very powerful words. And of course, I've heard the theory that Bob Marley was just like part of the whole control opposition. Maybe was he all about weakening people by trying to promote tons of marijuana usage?
Took it out of Kevin's hands. Yeah, he was smoking like a chimney.
No, I wasn't.
I think I smell marijuana in it.
could be, but he also was saying some very interesting stuff. And also, like, I've also seen the pictures of Marley being part of the One Eye Club, or whatever it's called, like, being part of the Illuminati, essentially. But I'm not sure about that. I think he was saying some super powerful stuff, and I think he may have been by the CIA, possibly. So anyways, he of course says this idea of freeing ourselves from this mental slavery.
I said empty your mind.
Emancipating our minds, and I think that's of course very important. I think all of us have the power to do so, but like few of us are actually going to put in the work and the effort that it takes to think for ourselves, to be critical thinkers, and stop outsourcing all of our knowledge to these people in power. And the other very interesting point he made, which I'm not sure like how I feel about this, being someone who's very open-minded and being someone who questions everything, I think it is like a very interesting point of contention to talk about. So he talks about how they say that we've got to fulfill the book, which I think is very clearly referring to the Bible. Now, as many of you know, I am definitely a fan of the Bible. I think there are some incredible teachings and lessons within there, but you'd also have to be crazy to think that like the Vatican or some of these other massive organizations haven't manipulated it drastically.
Are you out of your mind? You'd have to be insane to eat it.
No. This man is not insane. Now, there's nothing wrong with it or you.
Over time. So the Bible is, of course, a tool that can be used for bad or good depending on the person using it, as with any other tool out there. Of course, God's word, like I fully believe, is the ultimate word. But like I also believe that like it's more important to live the teachings rather than just like speak about them and to use them to like convince people that like you're more righteous than them, if that makes sense. And like I'm actually someone who believes that like every religious book has like a ton of truth in there, and like I'm open-minded when it comes to all those books, and I think that like all of them have a ton of truth, and there's a ton to be learned from them. But just as with anything else, some people can take something that's really good and use it for bad, and vice versa. And of course, as many of us truthers know, as many of us truth seekers know, books have been removed. Some books may have even been added over time. And as Elle Stone spoke about when she came on my podcast, aka the Ancient Ninja, she really opened up my mind to some of this manipulation that's happened over the years. When she spoke about how the Book of Revelation was actually written by John Nelson Darby, who was actually a Freemason, one of these members of a secret society. So like based on that, is it possible that some of these people, when they're like, oh, end times are coming, there's nothing you can do about it, could it all just be like this massive way of manipulating our consciousness and getting us like, to act out these prophecies that were actually written by people and not by God?
You just blew my mind.
Could it be this way of drawing our consciousness away from what we're actually meant for, and convincing us, oh, we're just fulfilling a prophecy, and that's why all these events are coming true, and there's nothing you can do to stop it?
I am inevitable.
So once again, I'm open-minded, and I'm going to question everything. I do think the Bible is very powerful, and of course, I am a huge believer in God above all, but Bob Marley makes a very interesting point there, and I think at the very least, we do have to ask these questions as to who's actually writing the prophecies and who's actually getting us on board with them and acting them out for the people who wrote them. Now, the next very interesting conspiracy / rabbit hole I want to bring up is, I was thinking about it like the other day, and what do things like Spotify and NFL Red Zone have in common? So like both of them have made it so easily accessible to reach the highlights instantly. Think about this. So like back in the day when we used to have just radio as opposed to access like to any song at the touch of a button, we used to have to like wait for our favorite songs to come on. We couldn't always be playing them. We'd either have to buy the CD, which also like in of itself like had songs that we didn't like, and isn't it the same thing when it comes to NFL Red Zone basically? Or many of these streaming services. We don't have to wait anymore when it comes to getting what we want.
We get there when we get there.
Everything is just like delivered to us instantly on a silver platter. And I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing. I just think it's important to remember that like there is value in boredom. So not every moment of our lives is always going to be a highlight. And if you really want something, and if you really want to go after your dreams, it's going to take hard work. Not every moment is going to be the most enjoyable. And so, while we do have access to these wonderful things, whether it be Spotify, being able to give us access to any song we want at the touch of a button, or NFL Red Zone, allowing us to watch every game all at once, and to only see the highlights.
We hope we represent this amazing league and the amazing competition that is pro football.
We do have to remember that there is value in boredom. Because of course, those things also could wear out our endorphins, and then we just keep craving more of that stuff. Now, I think NFL Red Zone's great, I think Spotify's great, I think all these apps are very convenient, but we also have to remember to challenge ourselves willingly so that this way all this convenience doesn't bring us down and doesn't make us weaker as humans, and doesn't bring down our mental fortitude. To be able to wait and to be able to have patience, because those aspects are of course pivotal when it comes to going after something that is going to be challenging. What do you guys think about that? Next up, we have Will Smith talking about a conspiracy back in 1998. Interesting.
Do you believe in government conspiracies?
Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm serious.
No, definitely. No, oh my God.
No, I heard you did. Are you serious now?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm very serious. You can't tell, can you?
Can't
No.
tell. You know what I'm getting at. I read that you felt that the government was deliberately spraying cold germs in subways, was deliberately trying to make people ill with the AIDS virus. This is pretty serious stuff. Do you really feel that?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I'm with Barbara Walters. Oh, that's a serious one. Okay, so I got to, now, because people are going to chase me after this. People are going to chase me. I believe that it is quite highly possible that the AIDS virus is a result of genetic warfare testing.
By American agents?
Absolutely.
Well, why?
Am I a conspiracy theorist? I'm a conspiracy theorist, all right. Gosh, I didn't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I wanted to be regular.
Well, you're a little irregular. Serious stuff.
So now, is she trying to make him look dumb for talking about some truth? And also, like, I also read some interesting comments talking about what happened to the real Will and Martin Lawrence. Could they have had their minds messed with after talking about some interesting conspiracies back then? Possibly. And keep in mind, Will Smith has always been actually probably my all-time favorite actor. I think a lot of what he talks about is very motivational, inspirational. And of course, I'm not supporting any of these Hollywood people. I think that, like, a lot of them probably have done some dark stuff, but, like, talking about some interesting truth here. Now, keep in mind, I am someone who doesn't believe in germ theory. As I spoke about in the past, I believe in terrain theory. So, like, based on that, I don't agree with this idea of spraying cold germs. I believe that, like, it's rather the toxins in our environment, toxins in our minds, toxins that get sprayed on us that are, like, what actually causes illness. And of course, I could go way deeper into those topics. And same thing when it comes to the whole AIDS. I don't believe, like, the AIDS virus, was ever isolated and actually found to cause disease. Like, technically, the HIV virus was actually never isolated and found to cause AIDS. It was actually essentially the same playbook that happened during COVID, if you know what I mean.
Oh my God.
And during this whole scamdemic, back then, they were giving all these people these harmful medications. And who was in charge of all that? Was it the same guy who was in charge of this whole thing? Was it Fauci? Could have been. If any of you guys have done any bit of research or have read the book about the real Anthony Fauci and how he was the major player during the whole AIDS thing back in the 90s, and what was the drug that he was using back then? Was it AZT? And what was the success rate on that? Could it be the same thing when it came to the whole remdesivir? And when it came to the whole jibby jabbers? So Will Smith was on something. Even though I might not necessarily agree with all the wording that was used in that interview, I do think he was on something when it came to all this warfare, genetic manipulation, as well as spraying people with certain stuff to cause us to become ill. So I'm probably going to do 2 more videos in this one.
Pieces of submarine cable picked up in the Gulf of Mexico in 1888. 1888, submarine cable. Did the submarine come around much faster or much earlier than we know? Because 1888 is pretty early. So that's an interesting one. And then you sit there and think about cables in the ocean. Well, the internet runs through cables in the ocean. We know this. We've studied this. The internet runs through cables in the ocean. It doesn't go up to satellites and all the sataballoons nonsense they tell us. It runs through the ocean. So if we think about that there's cables through the ocean in 1888, was the internet already here in 1888? And then it was sold to you in maybe about the 1970s and 80s. You can connect to your computer to the technology which was already present, because a lot of the stuff that was already present seems to be found and then sold to us later on. So this technology I'm sitting on right now, 1888. Interesting thing to think about.
So was there another reset somewhere around this time, somewhere in the 1800s? And why is it like all the official narratives are essentially horse and buggy, and then all of a sudden we just have this massive technological revolution? Could it actually be that, like, all this technology that we're seeing now has been around for over 100 years?
We're not cavemen! We have technology.
And they were just being resold it. I mean, haven't you guys listened to any of these old world buildings and seen how massive they are and how incredible the architecture is? But yet we're told like all these were built on horse and buggy and with essentially primitive technology. Was the internet around back then too? I don't doubt it, honestly. So was Wi-Fi actually around during the 1800s? What do you guys think? And guys, for this video, the final point I wanted to make is that I see a lot of people, or a decent amount of people, who use conspiracies to make life less fun and to basically take the joy out of things.
I'll just suck the fun out of everything. Do not suck the fun out of everything. Fun sucker. Oh.
Now, if any of you have been following me for any period of time, and have been following all of my truther content, I prefer to use conspiracies and rabbit holes to make life more fun and more interesting. Cause what's the whole purpose of going down these rabbit holes if it's only going to make you more miserable and if it's only going to make you more cynical? Isn't that like essentially playing into the parasite's agenda and the controller's agenda? If on the other hand we could see it as, wow, our world is incredibly interesting, we're all way more powerful than we've been sold, we could do anything, but like we've just had our minds limited, we've been caged in to believe like we're just a tiny insignificant speck in this massive universe when really we're actually divinely created with a powerful purpose and a reason for being here. I think that's actually the way we should be using these things. Not seeing it as, oh, the people in power have been keeping me down, so I'm just going to stay down. I'm not going to enjoy anything.
I'm too sad to walk.
I'm just going to wait for whatever prophecy to come true and wipe me out. I mean, like, for instance, like, when it comes to people who start telling people everything is all satanic, it's all horrible. Well, that might be true in a lot of cases when it comes to the entertainment industry, when it comes to idol worship and all these dark agendas. It is also possible to be in the world without being of the world. So like you don't have to stop watching pro sports, and you don't have to stop listening to music, you don't have to stop watching movies. You just have to come at it with different intentions and different understanding, and you can actually use those things for good, I believe, because of this concept of duality. Very few things in life are going to be all good or all bad. It depends on how you're going to use it, as I'm always saying. So that's just a reminder to you guys. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you guys enjoy my return to the channel. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to buy the book, be inspired by it, be blown away. And I hope that this book can make a powerful impact on your lives. I hope that all my content's been helping you guys out. Anyways, I love you guys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts. I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.